Welcome back to Teleperformance's exclusive podcast, where we come together to discuss important current topics in our work culture, engagement events, diversity and inclusion actions, and many other things. I'm Audrey Thomas, Communications Coordinator for our internal employee communications team. And today we're going to kick off a four-part series about mental health awareness, particularly related to stress, debt management, and depression. These are all things that affect so many people every single day, but for many, it becomes especially hard during the holiday season. So, luckily for Teleperformance team members, we are not on our own with these feelings. Our employee assistance program has an abundance of resources available to us 24/7. So, for today's podcast, we have with us Logan Joy, Employee Engagement Coordinator for TPUSA. Logan's come to join me to discuss some self-help tips when it comes to managing stress during the holidays. So, Logan, before we dig into these tips that we're going to discuss today, I do want to give you a moment to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Audrey. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Logan Joy. I am part of the employee engagement team for the U.S. I've been with Teleperformance for about 5 years, and I'm super excited to be able to be here today to talk a little bit more about mental health tips and ways to kind of manage that stress during the holiday season because we all know that can be definitely a stressful time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Logan, for that introduction. And we're definitely excited to have you here with us today. So let's jump right into what we're here for. I think we can all agree that while we obviously have stress daily, it rarely compares to the ramped up stress that appears during the holiday season. I know for me personally, the hustle and bustle of what quarter 4 brings to our industry in specific, along with just trying to prepare for the holidays with my family, wrapping up the first semester of school for my daughter, and just everyday life combined on that can bring on just a mountain of stress. I have learned, though, many ways to cope with that stress in a healthy way. And a lot of that is because of the resources that we have available to us. One of the most important things that I've learned to help cope with holiday stress is to tune in to what really matters the most to me. And I think for everyone, we have really specific things about the holiday season that bring us joy. And we also have things that we can foresee ahead of time that are going to bring us some stress. And I think it's really important to be able to identify both of those things. It's no secret, that our world has changed over the last 2 years. While we've settled into what I think we would probably call our new normal, we're still dealing with the reality of living in a global pandemic. And that's changed the way that we function. Logan, I'd love to hear what it is that brings you in particular joy during the holiday season.
Yeah, absolutely. I know for me, during the holidays, I always try to focus on some of the little things for me and my family to kind of de-stress and just to be able to enjoy the season. So decorating our tree is always a really big one, but also even just driving around and checking out some of the lights in our community that different housing additions have or that they have set up in our community is a really good stress reliever for us. My kids really enjoy it, and of course, if they're enjoying something, I'm enjoying it even more. Um, but even being able to be involved in the community, that's a really big piece for the holidays. I know it is for a lot of people. So, with that being so rewarding and being able to give back, it also helps my family be a little bit more appreciative of the smaller things that we often overlook. But it can be so stressful worrying about all those little things that seem like such a big deal in the moment, but it's really not, and allowing ourselves to kind of focus more on those little things and not be so stressed out, like even taking time to be able to get out in the community and volunteer with the local organizations, maybe a food event or a toy drive. It can really kind of give us a peace of mind.
Yeah, and I love that you bring up getting out in the community and giving back, as that's always been a really important part of my holiday season, and my family's. I can say 100% something that I'm personally finding stressful this year is finding ways to make that happen in a COVID environment. Where we used to be able to go to a shelter or volunteer at a local drive, those things just aren't as easily accessible as they used to be. And even for the ones that are available, I know for my family, it's important that I still take safety into consideration as well, as I have a child with a compromised immune system. So I'm really seeing some added stress with that this year. And with that being one of the biggest things that does bring me and my family joy, I would love to hear some of your ideas of how to combat that while still feeling like I'm doing what is safest for my family.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. I know exactly what you mean. We kind of go through the same thing with one of our children. They have compromised immune system. So during the COVID situation that we're all in, it is a constant worry, and I know that's for a lot of us. And I love the fact that we are able to work for a company that takes pride in being to help make a difference. And for those of us working from home and trying to keep our families safe when it comes to COVID, volunteering in person hasn't really been much of an option. But with our COTW initiatives, it makes it so much easier for us to be able to have that option to still give back. So, like this quarter, with us focusing on Make a Wish and our one time campaign being open right now, and them allowing us to make those donations to help grant Cammie's wish to go to Disney for the holidays. A great way to be able to still give back, but without having to have those COVID worries. And even with our Feed the Children reoccurring payroll contributions, yet again, another great way to be able to give back. And we also have those different organizations that are approved through teleperformance where we can still make those donations and be able to do it safely from home without, again, having those COVID worries.
Absolutely. I love that. And I do love that teleperformance gives us that option because you're right. It's a great way to still be able to give back and really soak in that moment of joy of knowing that you still helped someone, even if you're not, able to be out there right in the middle of it. You're still doing your part to give back and be a part of something great like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And with talking about so many different things we try to do during the holidays, often I know I'm guilty of this, as I try to do so many different things at once. Taking time to kind of slow down, focus on one thing at a time, that can really help, not only with your stress levels during the holidays, but also making sure you're giving your full attention to whatever the item is that you're focusing on, or your family, or your work. And Audrey, I know you've also been in that same boat with me sometimes, trying to make sure that you're putting the right amount of focus on so many different things at once. So what are some things that you kind of do to help slow down, focus on one thing at a time so that you're not having to add stress whenever it's not needed, and being able to kind of give your full attention?
Yeah, I mean, I think you already know, I am guilty of this. We both run 100 miles an hour. Guys, Logan and I talk often about how absolutely insane our schedules are. Between work, we both have children, school, extracurriculars, it's a lot. And then, you add in the holidays, and holy smokes, like, what are we even doing from one second to the next? I don't know half the time. And it took me a really long time to learn to not only prioritize what I'm doing, but compartmentalize as well. And I think it's really all about that one word that you hit on is focus and focusing on what you're doing right now. So when I'm at work, that's where my head has to be. I can't be thinking about the basketball tournament we have coming up this weekend, or what my responsibilities are for the PTO food drive happening next week, or the dentist appointment that I have to make sure to get my daughter to in 3 days. I really have to keep my focus where it belongs and give it everything that, I have in that moment. But the same thing goes for once I leave work. I think you're probably going to know this just as well as I do. Working from home, especially, the last year and a half or so, it's so, so easy to stay roped in just nonstop because we have such easy access to our work environments. And getting used to having that mentality that when you clock out, you really are done for the day is incredibly hard. I know for me, I used to be, at basketball games, I'd be on the sideline thinking, did I send this email? Did I run this reporting correctly? And it was just really taking a toll on me without me even realizing it. So, stepping back and setting those boundaries and really just learning to focus on the task at hand has helped me tremendously. It really allows me to give my full attention to what I'm doing. And that goes for whether it be at work or when I'm with my family.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with that. And work life balance is so important, especially for a lot of us. With working from home, it really is hard to kind of draw that line. And that's a great thing that our EAP program can assist with, is connecting with a counselor. So you can discuss all the things that you have going on, and they can help you with maintaining that work life balance, which is always important to prevent getting burnt out and making sure that you're able to continue on with the things that you need to. You don't want to put too much added stress on yourself trying to go in so many different directions, and also making sure that you know how to separate work and home life. And again, all of us, or so many of us working from home right now, it is really, really, really important to make sure that you understand how to have those barriers so that you're not constantly taking work with you or worrying about home whenever you're trying to focus on work.
Absolutely. And, we talk a lot about how to get to that work life balance. And I think another thing about that work life balance that's important to mention is what happens once you have learned to make that divide? What comes along with that? Because I know that you and I have had this conversation and we both know the answer that we've experienced, which is it comes a lot of times with worry, it comes with guilt, it comes with negative emotions. You always have that, am I good enough? Am I giving enough here? Am I giving enough there? Am I the employee that I want to be? Am I the parent that I want to be? The friend, the family member? I mean, it could literally just go on. And those worrisome thoughts are going to seep in no matter what we do. But there's also healthy ways to deal with that. And I think it's super important that we don't let those thoughts get the best of us. We don't judge ourselves for having them because they're perfectly normal. And not only should we not judge ourselves on having them, I think it's important to also not ignore those. The more you ignore them, that's not going to stop the worry from being there. And it's about letting that worry come in and how you deal with it. And I've really learned to just let those thoughts come through and just try to tackle them one at a time. I know if I dwell on them all together, I'm going to end up leaving myself super unhealthy. And that's not going to make me a better employee. It's not going to make me a better person with my friends, my family, my daughter. It's not going to solve any of those feelings. But if I make myself take that step back and tackle those worrisome thoughts one at a time, I know I can get through all of them. I think it's just a little bit, about showing yourself kindness and grace and allowing yourself to feel your feelings, but also learn to be in control of them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a good thing to kind of remind yourself that it's okay to feel this way. You just have to work through it. And that's a really good point, Audrey. Often we put those feelings kind of on ourselves, and instead of letting those worrisome thoughts kind of take over our focus more on the small things that we feel are such a big deal, we should focus a little bit more on the small moments of joy that we could have. And I know personally, again, I'm guilty of this, and I'm sure you've been in the same boat, Audrey, is allowing myself to kind of get worked up over something so small and just allowing that to kind of take over my day, which could have been spent, with my family, or even focusing on some self-care instead, especially, during the holiday season. Sometimes, whenever you allow those little worrisome or stressful events to kind of take over your day, you're really losing those precious moments you could be making with your family. And then, instead focusing on those smaller moments of joy and the little things that really bring you happiness instead of worrying and stressing over those things that feel so important at that time in that moment, that it can really help make holidays and even life in general much more enjoyable for yourself. But I know there's a lot of different ways that you can also just kind of take a step back and enjoy moments, by yourself or with your family. Maybe it's having a meal with your family, or being able to go and take a walk with your pet and have a breath of fresh air. Those are really important little things that you can do to kind of focus on those smaller moments of joy, but also, grabbing your morning coffee or tea and, starting your day off right and just allowing yourself to clear your head and have a moment to yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's a great way to kind of just give yourself a moment to have with yourself.
Yeah, and the last tip that I wanted to bring up for us to talk about today, it comes at, I think, a perfect time considering some of the great things you just listed as those small moments of joy and taking that time for yourself. because the holiday season is an amazing time to be with your family. We all know that. I think, though, at least for me, I've spent more time with my family in the past 2 years than ever before. Like true at home quality time, where we're not running around in 100 different directions at 100 miles an hour. And, don't get me wrong, of course, I love that. I'm actually very grateful for the time that I've been able to spend with them. But at the same time, I'm not going to deny that it comes with its own added stress. When you're in the same room or the same house with the same people day in and day out for so long, it's really easy for tensions to rise. And I just want to talk about that for a second and maybe a good way to deal with that. Logan, I don't know about you, but I've definitely taken up some new hobbies the last few years that serve as like my me time. When things get crazy in my house and I feel like it's just become really easy to lash back and forth at each other, because you're family and you'll get over it, but that's definitely not the healthy way to always handle those things. As I mentioned, I have a 9-year-old, and one thing I've always tried to instill in her is that respect aspect. You respect me, I respect you, and we respect those around us. So when she acts like a true 9-year-old and she throws me some attitude, it's become easy to just come back with that being together so much. But it's really taken some adjusting to not do that and learn to take that step away. And that goes the same for her. I've taught her to take that step away. So we've really just been practicing in our home that when tensions do rise like this, all parties take a few moments, step away, and like you said, spend some time alone. Do some things for yourself. Do that self care. It might be read a book. It might be take a walk. It might be hop in the car and go grab your favorite coffee or snack, whatever it takes. But then, we regroup, we come back and we sit down and we have a discussion instead of what could have been an argument. And I think that's really important. Do you think you've experienced these higher tensions at home, especially, with everyone spending so much more time at home and just the holiday season in general?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know with having an 8-year-old and two 11-year-olds at home, and especially whenever the schools were shut down for a while and we all had to have our kids at home much more than we were used to. Our household can get chaotic. It can. And taking a minute to kind of regroup and remember that it's okay to spend time on myself or alone, was something that I really had to remember, because I'm always one of those people that are always trying to involve my kids in every single thing that I do. And one thing that I kind of had to remind myself of several times, it's okay if you need to, go shopping by yourself for a little while, or, just take a drive, or whatever it may be. Allow their dad to take them out of the house, and I don't have to be there every time. But making sure that I kind of constantly remind myself that it is okay to take a step back and spend some time on myself, but also there's still always that time to be able to do our different family quality time things, whether it be watching a movie and having a movie night or a game night. There's so many different things that we do to make sure that we do have that quality time. But again, self-care is always a really big thing, and I've always struggled with that, making sure I put that time aside for myself, because it's not always about everybody else. You have to focus on yourself sometimes so that you have that time to regroup. And a lot of times, like you had said, with your kids, and things just they happen and it gets so chaotic, and just little things kind of happen here and there, and then you kind of look back and like, I really could have handled this different, and if I would have taken some time by myself, maybe I would have thought about that a little bit clearer. And it just, with COVID and the holidays and everything going on, making sure that you do have that self-care time, whether it's going and sitting on the couch for a minute and going through TikTok videos. I know that's one of my favorite things to do, to kind of give myself a minute. Or again, jumping in the car, reading a book. There's so many different things that you can do to just kind of take a step back and remember that you can focus on yourself for a little while. There's no guilt in that.
Absolutely. I agree with all of that. And you are like the TikTok queen on sending funny videos. So I appreciate that that is one of your hobbies also. But I think for the most part, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Logan, once again, I do want to thank you for coming on and having such a great discussion with me today. Like you said, self care is such an important topic at all times, and it's not just through the holiday season. But I do feel like it's extra important to take those moments for yourself during those time, just because of there's just so much going on for everybody. And for everyone who is listening at home, please remember to subscribe to our Spotify channel and our Teleperformance USA YouTube channel. That's where you're going to be able to hear and see all of our latest podcasts. And for anyone who may have realized today while we were having this conversation that you are feeling the added holiday stress yourself, we absolutely strongly encourage you to reach out to our EAP experts. They're there to provide just an abundance of service to our teleperformance team members and help you get help with anything that you might need, whether that be counseling services, debt management, or just so many other things. So, to get in touch with our employee assistance program, you can reach them by phone at 877 240 6863. You can also email them at answers@healthadvocate.com, or you can look on their website at healthadvocate.com/members. Thanks everyone for coming and listening today, and be sure to tune in next week for our next edition.